Welcome to This Explainer. We're diving straight into something that is literally going to change how you see every single human interaction from here on out. I mean, we spend our entire lives talking, texting, and working with others, usually assuming we're just casually exchanging information. But what if I told you there is an invisible layer to literally every conversation you have? Today, we're unpacking the fascinating and honestly slightly unsettling art of reinforcement in communication. Let's kick things off with a pretty massive core truth. Communication is not neutral. It is actually a behavior modification system disguised as a conversation. Take a second to really let that sink in. Your everyday chats, your weekly meetings at work, those little arguments with a partner, they're actually invisible training mechanisms. We are constantly, and usually totally unconsciously, shaping each other's behaviors, beliefs, and emotional responses through repeated social feedback. Which naturally brings us to a highly personal question. So, who is actually shaping your behavior? Think about your relationships for a minute and ask yourself, who is really pulling the strings through these social feedback they give you? Because the golden rule of this hidden dynamic is super simple. What gets rewarded gets repeated, and what gets punished gets reduced. Section 1. The illusion of conversation. We really like to think we're just logically exchanging information when we talk, right? But the reality is way more primal than that. Here's the thing. People don't just learn from what you actually say, they learn from what gets rewarded. There is a huge gap between the literal words coming out of your mouth and the behavior you're validating right after. That reaction, your reaction, is what truly dictates exactly how they're going to communicate with you next time. Think of it as a completely invisible incentive structure. As communicators, we hold immense power. We control these vital social signals, our tone, a nod of approval, a look of rejection, and receivers naturally, almost automatically, tweak their behavior to maximize that approval and dodge any negative pushback. So the ultimate takeaway here is that whoever controls the reinforcement signals, the praise, the attention, the cold shoulder, controls behavior way faster than any logical argument ever could. Moving right along to Section 2, the behavioral training loop. Let's look exactly at how this hidden code rewires our psychological systems and turns a single interaction into a permanent habit. Here's how a simple one-off action becomes a totally hardwired habit based entirely on the response it gets. Step 1, a behavior happens. Say someone speaks up with a new idea. Step 2, a response is given. Maybe you agree enthusiastically, or maybe you frown. Step 3, and this is the really crucial invisible moment, an emotional update happens in the speaker's brain. Step 4, they adjust their behavior based on exactly how that response made them feel. And by step 5, a stabilized pattern is formed. Communication is literally a feedback-driven training loop. Underneath all this is a deep psychological layer. You have to realize that we humans are constantly scanning the room to see what feels emotionally safe. We build reward associations where positive feedback makes certain topics feel like safe bets. Then there's punishment avoidance. Think about it. If you pitch an idea and your boss just stares at you in complete dead silence, that silence is a punishment. You're probably not bringing up ideas anymore, right? Ultimately, this emotional conditioning completely dictates what the other person feels safe bringing up around you. Section 3, the power of reinforcement. Let's look at the actual leverage points here, the tools in this behavioral arsenal, and see how they are wielded. We're basically working with two main levers. On the positive side, approval, agreement, and validation act as a giant green light for repetition. It screams, "Do that again." On the flip side, punishment signals, like criticism, rejection, or just checking out and withdrawing your attention, act as a harsh red light, actively suppressing whatever just happened. Okay, now for perhaps the most fascinating and honestly most dangerous tool out there, intermittent reinforcement. This is when rewards are totally unpredictable, and it creates a massive behavioral dependency. Think about that classic hot and cold texting dynamic. It drives people absolutely crazy because unpredictable social rewards make us highly addicted to seeking that validation. Warm one day, cold the next, it creates a shockingly powerful psychological hook. So the really critical takeaway here is that the absolute strongest reinforcement systems out there aren't obvious at all. They are invisible, they are super inconsistent, and they are deeply emotionally charged over a long period. You literally won't even realize you're being trained until the pattern is deeply ingrained in your daily life. Section 4, real-world behavior shaping.
Let's zoom out for a second and see how universally this invisible system governs the world around us, because this goes way beyond one-on-one chats.
We see this exact same loop scaled up absolutely everywhere. In the digital world, social media is basically an algorithmic behavior shaping engine, using likes and views as pure positive reinforcement. In trading and finance, the engine is profit as the ultimate reward and loss as the punishment to shape trader strategies. In cybersecurity, user habits adapt based on system responses like login successes or failures. Even in military and leadership structures, command responses use the same underlying psychological code to shape unit discipline. The mechanics are the exact same everywhere. Which brings us to this massive realization. Control over behavior comes from control over feedback, not just the initial messages. Whether it's an app algorithm feeding you notifications or a manager running a team, the true power is in the feedback loop, not the prompt. What happens after the action is what writes the future. Section 5. How to defend yourself. Good news. We aren't just helpless robots reacting to stimuli. Let's talk counter strategies to break out of this matrix. First off, a vital reality check from modern behavioral science. Reinforcement shapes the probability, not the absolute certainty of a behavior. We have reflective thinking. We have our own individual autonomy, our identity, and our values. And those can completely override these learned patterns. You can resist this once you know it's happening. So, how do we actually defend ourselves? By adopting a few specific tracking techniques, you can spot these invisible loops before they solidify. First, track behavior over repeated cycles. Don't just get caught up in one isolated argument. Second, consciously separate the actual message content from your emotional reaction to it. Third, actively identify which of your behaviors are increasing or decreasing over time around certain people. And lastly, start observing the reactions after the communication, not just the words spoken during it. This is how you spot their actual conditioning effects. Because here's the secret. Awareness inherently reduces reinforcement power. The second you realize someone or some algorithm is unconsciously trying to condition you, their leverage just vanishes. When you stop seeing communication as static information and start seeing it as a dynamic behavioral reinforcement system, you take the wheel right back. I'm going to leave you with this one provocative thought to really chew on. The very next time someone goes totally silent on you or hits you with some random unpredictable praise, ask yourself, what behavior are they actively trying to train out of me? Or what are they trying to get me to repeat? Keep your eyes wide open to the feedback loops around you. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I hope it completely changes how you look at your very next conversation.